Why is it that the left doesn't get this? I think there's a reason. It may be hard to explain, but let me give it a shot. Sarah Palin, in this book, and you have to read somewhat here between the lines to get this, but she's not a navel gazer. She doesn't spend a lot of time in self-analysis in this book. She doesn't spend a whole lot of time on her inner life, meaning she doesn't analyze her own thinking. She's not preoccupied with her own thinking and how her mind works and explaining why she thinks what, which is what elites are obsessed with. These elites and intellectuals are obsessed with showing you how smart they are, and that they're the smartest people in the room, and they run around and they analyze them. They're total navel gazers. Obama's a navel gazer. Their whole objective is to make you think they're smart, and they are probably some of the stupidest smart people running around in the country today, as evidenced by their policies. I think she is foreign to intellectuals, both parties, and people in D.C. She doesn't spend a whole lot of time and space in the book recounting what she did in Alaska to fight corruption, marshal all the competing bickering forces, and solve her number one issue, get the gas pipeline deal. She just explains how it happened. She doesn't go into. She's not into self-praise. And a lot of these people are, and so when they don't see themselves reflected, then of course it's foreign to them, and they have to lash out. Here's David Brooks, Sunday morning on This Week, during the roundtable. Stephanopoulos. He's got, Brooks, I guess a question is asked of Brooks. A little bit of bluntness there from Sarah Palin. The book is out, 415 pages. David Brooks. Looks like it's a fair amount of score settling. Folks, I told her this in the interview last week, and I mentioned this to you on Friday when I told you what I told her, that people are going to focus on the score settling. And the score settling is not score settling per se, it's setting the record straight. And it's by nowhere anywhere near the majority of the book. It's a few short pages compared to the 415. But Stephanopoulos says to David Brooks, look, it looks like it's a fair amount of score settling, and the combat with the McCain campaign aides has continued straight through the weekend.
Yeah, she's a joke. I mean, I just can't take her seriously. We've got serious problems in the country. Barack Obama's trying to handle war. We just had a guy elected Virginia governor who's probably the model for the future of the Republican Party, Bob McDonnell. Pretty serious guy, pragmatic, calm, kind of boring. The idea that this potential talk show host is considered seriously for the Republican nomination, believe me, it'll never happen. Republican primary voters are just not going to elect the talk show host.
This guy has got me on the brain. I mean, you all think he's attacking Palin. He's not. He's attacking me. And I can take it, folks. They have no fear. One more soundbite on this. David Brooks just said on This Week with Stephanopoulos, she's stupid. She's a joke. Can't take her seriously. People like this country aren't going to elect a talk show host. And she's a talk show host, which she's not a talk show host. So Stephanopoulos said, but David, why don't you take on David Corn's question about whether this is taking away from her personality, this whole Palinism that we've seen? What impact does that have on the Republican Party going forward?
There is a populism in both the Democratic and Republican parties, which is against Wall Street, against intellectuals, against Washington, against New York, against the coasts. But if you look at the sort of populism that has won in this country, it is not William Jennings' populism, which is hostile and negative, which Sarah Palin sometimes is. It is the populism that is Ronald Reagan-esque, which is simply, we're for small towns, but we're not angry at the big cities. The anger turns people off. Representing small towns is fine. But what she does, which is turning into a hostility toward intellectualism in general, that just doesn't work.
This guy has got thin skin. He can't take it. He literally can't take it. He's taking everything she's saying personally. And he is amplifying her meaning and taking it as a personal insult. Hostile and negative towards intellectuals like himself. This is the guy who now says we need to be more Reagan-esque. This is also the guy who said the era of Reagan is over. He was one of the many people who said that. And I think, again, you have to understand that people who think of themselves as intellectuals also have a very, very, very high opinion of themselves. I mean, they are conceited. They are arrogant. And if anybody sounds angry, I mean, I've listened to Sarah Palin speak, and I've heard these two bites from Brooks, and I've heard other things Brooks has said. Brooks is a guy that sounds mad. Brooks is a guy that sounds angry and jealous. I think he's jealous of the attention that she gets, and me, other so-called opinion makers, because he doesn't move the opinion dial one way in any direction. I mean, he's a static zero. If he were an opinion meter, the thing would never move. It just pointing straight up, out into nowhere. And which is, I guess, what he wants, be considered a good moderate. But they in their arrogance and in their conceit, they miss her appeal. They miss her optimism and the things that she's positive about, and they totally don't understand why people are drawn to her, and it scares them. Now, I have a challenge to the Associated Press. They sent these 11 reporters out there to fact-check her book. Hey, AP, I got an idea for you. Assign those same 11 reporters to Al Gore's book and see how many facts you can find, not errors. What is his stupid book, Earth in the Balance? No, that was the preview. What's the Booker slideshow out there? Don't look it up. I don't care. But whatever the current book is on global warming, I made the slideshow out of it and so forth, and that little movie that the kids in school were required to watch. Assign same 11 reporters to that book and find out how many facts you can find. Let's go to the audio tape again. Morning Joe today, MSNBC, Time Magazine's Mark Halperin, and a co-host, Mika Brzezinski. She says Sarah Palin taps into something. She draws the crowds. The question is, what can she do with it?
She can sell a lot of books. Think about it compared to Howard Dean in 2004. He was exciting, too. And he had these huge crowds, and people said, this guy is going to win the Democratic nomination.
Sorry.
Well, it's big crowds and it's excitement, but it doesn't translate.
I'm going to enrage conservatives, but, I know Howard Dean. I've spoken to Howard Dean. It is such a disservice. I think Howard's way left and all that, but it is such a disservice to compare Sarah Palin in any aspect to Howard Dean. Yes, because that is an insult to Howard Dean's intelligence.
Now, that was Joe Scarborough. And, see, we have to define what is intelligent. Because Howard Dean is wrong about almost everything. As a far-left, fanatic, radical Democrat, he is wrong about pretty much everything. So here is, again, the arrogance and the conceit and the contempt, by the way, that is associated with intellectualism, even intellectuals on the right, or perceived intellectuals. I love it when people think they're intellectuals and when they're not. But the template is she's automatically stupid. It's just unfair to compare her to Dean because it's an insult to Dean's intelligence. It all adds up, folks. Human nature's human nature. Doesn't change. They'd never admit this, of course, but for some reason, they're scared of her. For some reason, they're scared to death of her and what she might achieve. Let's remember, folks, Barack Obama's policy book entitled Audacity to Hope, Reclaiming the American Dream. I didn't have any footnotes. There weren't any footnotes in that book. And the liberals are out there thinking he's the greatest writer since Julius Caesar. AP, if you don't want to fact check Gore's book, how about reading the health care bill? How about reading the House health care bill, AP, and tell us what's in that and find any facts or errors you can find there? Or go through one of Obama's books, why don't you?